As an avid consumer of videos and someone with ADHD, I feel like I'm very qualified to give advice on what makes a video engaging because I have the attention span of a goldfish. Say goodbye to long, boring videos that no one wants to watch and say hello to fun, engaging videos that people will stick to the end for. If you're doing a talking video, make the hook immediately. Do not do one of those, get ready with me while I tell you about a story about how my ex started dating my mom. Start off with that. That's your hook. That's the crazy story that people are gonna immediately stop scrolling for and listen to this story. You have to cut right to the chase. Don't tell me about how you're going to tell me about something. Tell me about it. You know what I mean? If you're not doing a talking video, then make sure your first 1 to 2 seconds are engaging. There's something moving, some noise is happening. So for example, my coloring book, sometimes I will throw the coloring book down and then the markers, or sometimes I will pull the markers out, put my hands on top of the markers and then pull one out really quickly. And then those noises are like attention grabbing. Why can't I say grabbing? Those loud noises kind of get your attention, makes people stop scrolling and seeing what it's about. And once you've gotten them 2 seconds in, you can probably get them to stay a little longer. The next tip is to get rid of any repetitive steps. So if you are doing a crafting video and you are weeding vinyl or something like that and you're doing the same thing over and over, cut that out. You don't need to see 30 steps of the exact same thing. Just keep the first 1 to 2 steps. A lot of my coloring videos follow the same guideline where if I am coloring flower, I will only show maybe 1 or 2 petals depending on how quickly I colored those spots in. You can assume that I'm going to color the other 5 petals the exact same way, so you don't need to see that. The only time I would keep all the repetitive steps in is if it's something like super satisfying to watch the whole process of. Something like the pressure washing videos, people love seeing the progress of it, or like the lawn care videos where people are showing the whole process. That also makes sense, but for generally speaking, crafty type of videos or business type of videos, you don't need every single step in there. Probably the most important step in my opinion is to just cut out all of the fluff. When I'm editing long form videos, I would call this the rough cut, but it also applies to short videos too. I like to cut out any of the parts where I'm not drawing, where my pen picks up, where my hand's out of shot, where I'm fumbling around. You'll be amazed how much time you can cut out of a video just by cutting the time where you're picking up your pen and moving it. That takes a lot of time, surprisingly. Once I've got all the fluff cut out, I will watch the video and kind of see what parts feel like they're dragging on. And sometimes some parts are harder to color and they take longer, so I will vary the speeds, which is another tip, to vary your speeds up and not have it be all the same length. I like to keep my coloring videos looking like they are realistic. I will usually start off by speeding them up to 150%, which is just very slightly faster than what I actually drew. And then the parts that drag on, I will do 200, and then I'll rewatch it again. And if those parts are still dragging on, I will see if I can cut it somewhere, or I will see if I can go up to 400, 500, 600, whatever I can do to make it feel like it's going faster. If you're trying to make a video look realistic, then obviously you wouldn't go up to 600. But if you're trying to like actually make it look like it's going faster, then 600, 1200, those are fine. So I'm going to say something a little controversial, but if you are posting a time lapse and it's just one solid recording that you just either press the time lapse feature on your phone or you sped up the video all to one speed, you are stuck in 2015. You didn't really do anything creatively to make that video engaging or better. You literally just went like this and hit time lapse. I wouldn't say that's the most engaging video. I'm sorry if that's a hot take or you do that, but if you do, please take my tips and I promise your videos will improve. I'm gonna do a quick plug real quick and I apologize for it, but if you're someone who hates editing videos, I would love to help you out and work with you. So if that's something you're interested in, send me an email at hello@jordanellisondesigns.com and we can chat about services I can offer you. Another tip I have is to keep the original sound if it sounds good. I don't see the point in adding audio for the sake of adding audio if your original video has like ASMR vibe. Definitely use your discretion if you're gonna keep the audio in, but if it sounds good and you had like quiet environment when you were filming, then by all means you should keep the sound in. You could either do it like full ASMR or you could do a voiceover or some audio and keep in the original audio so it's like somewhat there, but not all the way. I just think that gives it a little extra something versus just an audio covering up every noise you're making. I don't know, audios can be tricky because if you have an account that has like a shop or something or a business account, you can't use trending audio. So you're left with like these corporate audios and they're usually not the best. They can really change the vibe of the video. I don't know if that's great advice for like virality, but for the sake of the enjoyment of the video, it might be helpful. The next tip I have for you is to be okay with making mistakes, because people love to point out your mistakes and their comments will drive the engagement up, and before you know it, your video is going viral all because you left in a mistake. Sometimes when I'm coloring, I get frustrated that I messed something up, but I will keep it in unless it's like really bothers me. But for the most part, I will keep it in. And then my last tip for you today is kind of obvious, but just have good lighting. Your office doesn't have to be super bright like mine is right now. I'm pretty lucky with how bright this camera makes my office look, but also I guess it's summer, so there's that too. As long as you don't have super harsh shadows and you're like in a dungeon with no natural lights, no overhead lights, then you're gonna be fine. You don't have to have the most beautiful and pristine office setup, but just have one little space that you can film videos on. So this desk behind me is usually where I film my videos, and for the most part it's covered with stuff. I usually just move things over and film my video and it's fine. I mean, I currently have stuff on the floor, so it looks like the desk behind me is actually clean for one. I just put it on the floor, so full transparency there. My office is still a mess. I'm never gonna have a perfectly clean office. That's okay with me. You just have to have a little tiny space that you can film at and you'll be fine. If this video was just sped up using the time-lapse feature on my phone, this is what it would look like. But honestly, this is kind of boring. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make this a little bit more interesting. I typically would film this at different angles, but we're just gonna show how to improve it if you only shot it at one angle. So first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut out any fluff. And what I mean by that is I'm gonna start immediately when I am starting to color. So I'm gonna hit Q to cut that and cut it to where I start back up. Now it is a lot of work to go frame by frame, so you don't necessarily need to do this, but just cut out any big chunks, I guess. And then I'm just gonna cut out in between the letters. So we started at 947. And right here, I go over it a few times, but when it's sped up a lot, you're not even gonna really notice the difference. So I'm just gonna cut that out as well. Since part of this goes off screen, I think I'm just gonna start it where most of the letter gets shown. Okay, and just like that, we have already knocked off 2 minutes and 20 seconds just from that. What we're gonna do now is zoom in and out to make it at least a little bit more dynamic. I have a few options. I could do something where I make it super ASMR-ish and I do each line is a new cut, or we go the easier route and just kind of do some zooms. So literally every time you pick up, make a new cut. Okay. So the difference in this is all how it sounds and not really how it's going to look if you speed it up. Okay, so something like that would not work for this coloring page. It would work for something where it's like a flower where you have petals, you have leaves, and you can show maybe one or two petals and then one or two leaves, etc. But for something like this, you would want to show all the letters, and that would just be one long video of a bunch of noises happening, and I don't really think that would work very well. You could start the video off that way. I might even make this 250. And you're maintaining the audio pitch so that it still sounds good and it's not like super annoying sounding. What I think I'm going to do with these ones is I'm going to speed them up and change the zoom so that they're at least a little bit different. zoom in on each letter, make the letter be the focal point. And I'm zooming it in at all different rates. I don't even know what I'm doing, so that might help things. I'm going to speed it up to 200. And I'm going to maintain the audio pitch, hit OK, select everything, and close the gaps. We're down to 340. And then I'm going to zoom in and see which ones are taking a little bit longer. Maybe we start everything at 300. We're down to 230. This one needs to be sped up a little bit more. Let's see what this is looking like right now. Maybe we do 700 for everything. And then anything that is long, maybe we make these 800. Make this one, and this one, and this one. Just selecting anyone that is long. Make those 800. It'll be almost not noticeable. I actually think these need to be faster. Do those feel slow? Let's do 250. Honestly, that's not terrible, but I don't know with a long quote like this how you would go about making it look better. Let me see what I did recently. Okay, here's an example I've done similar, but you can see how I started off with something loud and I changed the angles up. Well, I haven't changed this angle up yet, but here we go. Another angle change. Another angle change. I don't think these were different angles. I think this was just me moving. Another angle change. And another. So that can kind of show you how the angles would definitely help make that video go faster or feel like it's going faster, whereas this one feels like it's kind of just sitting for a really long time. So I'm not wonder how I could do it where it, do I just skip an entire word? I could also make all of these 1000. So at this point, I think you would need to make a decision. Do you want everything to sound good and not add an audio when you upload this? Or are you planning on adding an audio? And in that case, you would be able to speed this up even further without maintaining the audio pitch. So you could speed this up to like 2000, 3000 and make it go really fast. You just can't go above 1000 if you're trying to maintain the audio pitch. I think you'd have to decide right now which route you want to go. We're down to 52 seconds, so that's not terrible, but I do think this feels like it drags on. So I think at this point, I would probably decide to not worry about the audio and try and speed this up a little bit more. And I think I'm going to change the speed to 2500. And now we're down to 38 seconds. Now that there's no audio though, this part feels slow. So that's where I think I'm going to leave it. It definitely feels different when there's no audio versus when there is audio. So definitely just a different vibe. And it makes things feel like they're moving slower without being able to hear what's happening. So that's another thing to consider. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it helpful and gave you some pointers. If you have any questions or want to chat more about video editing, leave them in the comments and I'm more than happy to talk with you. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!